What did you overdose on?
Cocaine runs me into the ground every time. That will just tear me up. And
I'm
once,
sorry for laughing.
no,
It's just crazy.
it is
I've
crazy.
never done cocaine. I don't know what that feels like. And it sounds like, for someone who's never experienced it, it just sounds like bonkers.
It is bonkers.
Welcome to the Calm Down podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Smith, here to help remind you to take a breath and chill out a little bit. I'm joined by John Coleman today, who's a dentist and a very interesting guy with a past of addiction. And we're going to learn about how he has gone through his life and dealt with some of those issues. John, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, right, we've got cameras, we've got lights. How nervous are you?
Less nervous than I thought I'd be. And I mean, we've known each other, I think, for about a year. I think you've seen me in some different settings. Being in front of people is not one of my fortes. Don't like it, but I feel comfortable. We've clicked up and had a good relationship around a lot of things. I think the first time we sat down and talked, and your wife was there too, conversation got pretty deep pretty quick. So
I was going to bring that up, actually.
Yeah, when you asked me to do this and kind of what it's all about, I love the idea. So I'm feeling pretty good, man.
All right. So what's your number, 1 to 10?
I'm not gonna say I'm gonna go 6. That's a solid
Okay.
6, but yeah.
You know what? I'm with you. In fact, I'll go higher than that. I'll go a solid 7.7.
That's a big earthquake there.
It's up there. Yeah. No, the Richter scale is a big deal. Icebreaker here.
Yeah.
You're a dentist.
Yeah.
How exciting. Just kidding. Okay. Dentists, you get a bad rap.
Yes, we do.
Now, do you secretly enjoy making people feel uncomfortable?
I don't. Growing up just with this wanting people to like me, wanting to be accepted, we'll get into that stuff earlier, that I choose a profession that on a daily basis, I get told how much the person hates being there. I hate dentists. Well, not you personally, doc, and like, how else am I supposed to take that? And so no, I don't enjoy causing pain. I try to view it as a difference that people come in with pain sometimes, and I'm there to help them through that. So no, I don't enjoy it.
Okay. All right. So, and when let's start off with like your early life, right? Like, why did you become a dentist? Was it something that happened in your childhood? Was it some sort of a college professor who, stuck in your mind?
Yeah. So, I mean, we might go back and forth between some of these stories. So I grew up, I'm from Mesa originally, and my father passed away from cancer when I was a little kid. He was an accountant. So then I was raised, I was 5 years old and my dad passed away. I had a 3-year-old brother and an 18-month-old brother. So I saw my mom, she was awesome, did the best she could. She was a school teacher. She had actually retired, believe it or not, to then have kids. And then when my dad passed away, I was like, what the hell did I do? So she actually started a preschool in our home. And then when we were old enough, started teaching at an elementary school that we all ended up going to. But the story behind me wanting to be a dentist was, I had a friend. It hurt not having a dad, even though I wouldn't tell anybody that. Seeing dad show up to soccer games, swim meets, baseball games, all the things, whatever, at school. But I had a friend whose dad was actually our dentist that I played a lot of sports with. And I just remember as I was going through high school into college and kind of deciding, I always saw, his name was Dr. Helfert. I always saw him at all these games. And so initially that was a big part of like, you know what? That seems to be a pretty good career where I might have some control over a schedule to be around for my kids. So that's kind of how it went in. It wasn't, if it was the situation where I know I might get a beat down from patients on a regular basis on, on how much they dislike being there. I might have rethought that, but I haven't regretted the decision. So
Got it. So you got into it because you had a role model, someone who, you looked up to, someone who you hung out around a lot, and you just saw that it was a good opportunity to
that's exactly right.
live a decent life, be
Yeah.
around. That's pretty cool. All
Yeah.
right. Would you like a shell of Kava before we really get
I would
started
love a
here?
shell of
All
Kava.
right. Now that we know a little bit about you, now as I'm pouring this, just so you're aware, today I mixed for you a Tongan Pony Ono, and it's a very like social beverage, right? So I figured for today, it's in the morning. Normally I drink Kava late at night, and I'm not here to fall asleep on you. So this one isn't going to make us fall asleep, but it will make us kind of just to enjoy each other's company a little bit more.
Yeah.
While I pour this, while we're getting ready here, I want to kind of frame up the like addiction story in your life. And I want to ask, when you were growing up and you were dealing with a lot of these issues, would you say that, and we're going to get into the specifics a little bit, but let's, in a more broad and general sense, do you think that a lot of the issues that you had later on in life were a direct result of your dad not being there? Or do you think that it was a multitude of factors that,
I think it was several factors. That was a big one. Yeah. I think there's I don't know. It's just a term. I did not create it. There's just fatherlessness, and you can have fatherlessness in my situation. Father was just taken from this earth. Mom doing the best she can. Not that I wasn't surrounded by good men growing up, but I just always felt a void there. Mm-hmm. But there's plenty of households with father physically present, and those kids are still experiencing a lot of fatherlessness in their lives. And I've been there too. I've been there, like I told you, chose this profession to be around a lot, but there was definitely times in my life where might have been physically present, but I was definitely not present.
Yeah.
So, no, I think it has to do with Morgan, several factors. That was a big one though.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I was curious because so many people, they experience, dad went out to go get cigarettes at the corner store and then he just never came back.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Which in some ways, I wonder as a kid, you might have felt kind of similarly, even though that wasn't the case. Right. Yeah. So I was just curious if that was
a big part of mine. I don't know if you want to go there. Was just, can we do this?
Yeah, of course. Cool. Of course. Here you go. Cheers, my guy. That's right. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. It's not so bad, right?
To be honest, we've talked about that. I've sat with Morgan at his house a few times. I honestly don't mind the taste at all.
Yeah.
Usually you're throwing gummy worms or something at me afterwards. I'm like, I'm actually good, but I like gummy worms, so I'll put those down too. I'll just throw this out there because sometimes it seems dark. I love my life today, Morgan. I really do. I'm grateful for the stuff I've been through. I'm big on this whole concept of scars and wounds that become scars. I'm grateful for my scars. I hold them sacred. They mean a lot to me. Got all sorts of scars in this world, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. Sometimes that broken arm is way easier to heal from than something that's cut at your heart a little bit. So I'll be honest, I had a big problem with God growing up. So my situation, I just happen to be a Christian. Who's ever out there, don't care. I respect it all. I really have a fondness for all different religions and beliefs and faiths. But the truth is, I was at about that same time, I was being physically and sexually abused as a kid. So growing up in church, I don't know what your experience is, even in our early classes in the church that I attend. Hey, you got something going on, you can pray to God. He's going to help you through this. He's going to, as a 5-year-old, I mean, I'm trying to do that. But on a daily basis, I'm now praying for this abuse to no longer take place. What I end up seeing, about that same time, my father is diagnosed with cancer that had spread to his liver. So over the next 6 months, as a 5-year-old kid, I'm seeing my dad suffer, wither away, and finally pass away from that disease. But as a confused little kid, what my thought was like, God, you answered this prayer, because as a result of the living situation, my dad was not my abuser. But because of the living situation, when my dad passed away, the abuse, I was removed from that situation, the abuse stopped. So my confusion and anger was, God, I do believe you answered this prayer. What I was asking for, the abuse to stop, took place. But I also, it seems like as part of that whole deal I made with you, you took my dad.
It's like have you ever heard of the monkey's paw?
Yeah.
It's kind of a monkey's paw scenario, right?
Yeah.
The story with the monkey's paw is that you get this monkey's paw and you can wish for anything, but whatever you wish, there's going to be a consequence for that, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times the consequence might be a terrible one. So it's kind of that similar kind of a idea.
And it can sound just like, you have to remember my age.
You were young.
This was taking place. So what happened? And then so I see that the situation it puts my mom in, like I said, doing the best she can. But I grew up an angry little kid, angry at God, confused about God. It wasn't that I didn't believe. And maybe that made it harder for me because I still believed, but I believed he was now the cause of a lot of my heartache and problems.
Some sort of
in
like
life.
a malevolent God or something. Yeah.
So I just, not only did I trust him, I'm trusting, it's not safe to trust anybody.
Sure.
And I just grew up very, very alone and very afraid. So that's kind of where, I don't even know what question that was.
No, that's okay. How about let's fast forward a little bit.
So I just wanted to get a foundation out there. That's kind of where I come from.
No, I mean, I think that's super helpful to frame the conversation here. When we first met, you came over to my house. I had just moved into the neighborhood, and within 15 minutes, you asked me a question that I still to this day I don't think you've understood how many people I've told this story to, because it kind of blew my mind. Okay, do you know the question that you asked me?
If you're willing to say the answer here, I think.
Sure,
Usually,
I'm willing to say anything. I'm an open book.
Yes, I believe it was, hey, Morgan, what's the most challenging or difficult thing you've ever been through, and what did you learn from that?
And why did you ask me that within 15 minutes?
I just, I don't like having friendships or relationships that just aren't genuine. I'm willing to tell you my story. And if that person's willing to reciprocate and go down that path and get this is the deal, whether it's you, me, Anisha, whoever, Alexa, Gabby's my wife, man, we all have a story, and no one has this perfect, no problems story. I love story. Mm-hmm. So part of it's just me really genuinely wanting to get to know you, Morgan. And if people are willing to do that, I think in a very short amount of time, you can get there. But we live in a world that, hey, I want to put up this facade, and this is how my family looks, my house looks, the car I'm driving, the clothes I'm wearing, things I've done. For me, I'm getting up there in years. It just stuff doesn't matter to me anymore. But what you were willing to share with me, it just really meant a lot to me that you're willing to go to places like that. And I felt sometimes it puts me in a spot where, hey, I have known this dude a long, long time. We might be physically meeting for the first time, but there's just a heart-to-heart type connection where, like, I've known this dude before, and we're just now becoming reacquainted. So that was my experience that I had.
Okay. I was talking with Alexa, my wife, about you last night or 2 nights ago in preparation for this. And we thought about that conversation because she was sitting with us.
Well, because she asked to be a part of that. Normally I was just going around meeting generally the men in our neighborhood, and she was one of the few spouses that said, "Hey, can I be a part of that?" Which I like, yeah, that's awesome. I'd love to have that. So
I mean, why not? She's cool.
she is cool.
She was like, I cannot, you know, I mean, she was with me, right? Like, people don't really do that. They don't ever ask about the most difficult thing that has ever happened. But she gave me a little bit of insight that I thought was really fantastic. She read a book about an introvert that tried for a year to be an extrovert. And in the book, the author basically said she realized that the problem that she had as a supposed introvert was that she would go to a party and she would meet these people, and it was all about small talk and none of it mattered. So it's not even necessarily that she is an introvert. It's more that she just didn't care about the facade.
Yeah.
Right? She would much rather have a one-on-one or a one-on-three, you know, where like it's just a small intimate group where she actually knows people. And I feel the same way. I feel like I really, the other day, you know, there was an event put on by a group, and we were thinking about going, and she just said, you know, I just don't want to deal with it. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to deal with it either. And it's not because I don't like the people. Yeah. It's just that I don't care about the small talk. So I really appreciated that question.
Yeah.
But I just thought that it was like such a weird way to introduce yourself. And also, I have to imagine that has that ever put you in a situation where it's awkward and weird? Like, did you know, when you asked the question, did they reciprocate, or did they not reciprocate? Right.
So this is the way I have normally done that. I usually just say, hey, I'm going to ask you this question, then I'm going to give you a few minutes to think about it, because I'm going to answer the question, so you kind of know where
so
I'm
you let
from.
them know that you're going to be vulnerable, like, immediately. So you don't want to put them into a
And I can't remember
situation.
if that happened when we sat down, but so I throw that question out there.
Yeah.
That, you know, difficult situation, what did you learn from it? I'm like, hey, this is a couple of the most difficult things I've been through. This is what I learned from it. Some things, like I told that childhood story, some of the things I learned were so twisted, I think had an adverse effect on my life going forward. And there's some other things that were hard that I've shared that, you know, this is what I learned, and it was actually fantastic. So who knows whether they're listening to me or not, because I've dropped this bomb of a question on them. They're like, I don't know if I can go there with this dude. Very few times, and I have nothing coming to my mind right now that's, because I'll do it at work. I'm a dentist. A lot of the people I work with are very much younger, early 20s, and a lot of them haven't had a ton of life type traumatic experiences. A lot of them have. And I've been amazed that and I share the same story of stuff I've been through. I've been amazed at the willingness of some of these people to share me their story. And some of it's pretty terrible stuff that's taken place in their lives. And to have them say, listen, I don't really view myself as a doctor, but that's what they call me. Hey, doc, and I always tell them, listen, it will not leave this room. I want this to be a safe situation. But some of the stuff they're like, you're the first person that I've ever told this to. And I'm somewhat of a stranger to them, even though I see them a lot. And I feel that they're more family than anything now, the longer we're around one another. But it's, I've actually been surprised over the years at how willing people are to talk about themselves if you give them a safe space to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's super cathartic, right?
Yeah.
I'll answer that question. So, and actually in a previous podcast, I kind of discussed it a little bit, but I wasn't very specific about anything, just because the context was a little bit strange, right? But when you asked me that question, you know, my most difficult time in life was when I lost my faith. I lost my whole grounding for life. I didn't know what was up and what was down, you know? The whole idea of why we're here and what we're doing and why I made all the decisions I had made in life thus far. I had questioned everything, right? And it really destroyed me, right? I really had to build my life again and hopefully not destroy everything in the process.
So
right?
at the bottom,
Yeah.
what does that look like for you?
I mean, it was like,
On any given day, what did that look like?
I mean, I would drive to work and I would, I wasn't wanting to end my life, but I would not have minded it.
Mm.
Right. It was one of those things where it was like, if a car like ran into me, great.
Yeah.
Not a good place to be, a pretty terrible place to be. And keep in mind, right? Like I have a beautiful wife. I've got 2 beautiful kids. I've got, I had a dog and a house and a picket fence. You know what I mean? I had all of the things that you would want, right? I mean, so many people in life want to have those basics, and I had them, and yet I was still in a really terrible place.
So as you're saying that, it makes no sense whatsoever. But if you've been there, it makes perfect sense.
You get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is that?
Why the 2 scenarios?
Yeah. Well, why does it not make sense, even though it makes sense?
Well, okay, for me, when my outsides don't match my insides, because I relate to what you're saying. Like I grew up with not a lot of stuff. Go to school, all the things, come out, start making some money, start accumulating these things that I thought were so important growing up. The picture all through my high school years of these couple of cars that, man, you get that car, you have now made it. Now have that car, have a beautiful wife. I have these, I have 3 boys in my life, and all these things, I call it checking boxes, man. I had checked a lot of boxes that should have made me happy, and what I see on the outside that is important to a lot of people. So for me to want to, I call it, and I'll make that as heartfelt as I can. I have a lot of compassion for people with some suicidality. I get that, and I know
Sure.
it's rampant. That was kind of maybe towards yours. That's never been me. But if my life would have ended as a result of just my behaviors, I was okay with that, because I really felt like I was more of a detriment to this world and to my family than I was of benefit.
At what point would you say that is true? Like you said your behaviors. What behaviors are you talking about?
So let me finish
Sure. Sorry.
So on the outside, I'm just like, I have all these things. So it makes no sense that I'm completely miserable and I'd be okay. But when on the inside, when I've now realized, oh, this fills none of that void that I thought it would fill. And I'm just miserable. I'm depressed. I'm anxious all the time. I want to be validated by other people. That's how I'm building my self-esteem. And if, there could be 100 people in the room and 99 people love me, and that one person says something that hurts my feelings, that's the only thing on my brain. I can't let it go. So that's where when I was saying, if you've been in this miserable spot and you've had some of those feelings, it makes sense to me. And I know what you've been feeling.
Yeah.
So question was what?
Yeah, like when you mentioned that when you were doing some activities that were not particularly beneficial to your life, and if they had ended your life, you wouldn't have cared, right? What were those activities, and why did you?
So I grew up. I just grew up, like I had mentioned before, just lonely, afraid, just worried. Really, just worried about how I was perceived in this world. If the things I was doing were the right things, would be perceived a certain way. Was I successful enough? All the things. Did I have the right career? Nothing was real authentic in my life. And I've grown up. That's my story. I think a lot of people get into some partying in high school or college. Not my story. I take my first drink when I'm 28. Just stuff was. I can't remember the reason behind that first drink, but that first time, and it was artificial. I realize that now, but I'm like, I feel okay. I feel okay, and And it wasn't like I was, um, from that point, alcoholic, but I would start drinking on a very regular basis. Um, Drugs were introduced into my life, and then that was just something. And then this part I'll be a little more vague, but I'll just say it started producing a lot of behaviors I'm not super proud of.
Sure.
The stuff I had promised I wouldn't do as a married man, as a father, all those kinds of things. So, but as the and then I'm trying to hide it this whole time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still going to church. I'm sitting in the pews. Sometimes I'm sitting in those pews drunk, just pretending that everything's okay. Sitting in those pews, like there is not a single person in this chapel that could possibly know what I'm dealing with. And then I would start to follow some guidance from church leaders, and I'm like, you guys just have no idea. I know you're trying to give me the answers, and I know you care about me. But you have no idea what it is going on inside of me. You just have no idea. And I don't blame that for them. I think there are some of my church leaders are just put in impossible positions, and they're trying to do the best they can. So at that point, I'm putting a marriage at risk. I'm probably not real safe for my kids to be around. There's things that I could not. In our church, you're allowed to baptize your child. You're allowed to do other things in their progression in church. Because of my standing in the church, wasn't able to do a lot of that. So, and that's a cultural thing. There's just a lot of embarrassment and shame on my end and on my kids' end. Like when you're not having your father do those kinds of things, which is complete garbage. It's like, so, but that's how I was taking it. And, I wasn't, and the further it got along, the further I could not hide it anymore. My kids started to know what was taking place. There's a lot of fear there. When I'm talking about that fatherlessness principle from before, you can have a father that's just not in the home at all, which might have been a better thing than the father that I was being at that time in my life, because I was just, I wasn't safe for my kids to be around. I think they wanted to love me. They loved me. I don't think that ever stopped. So that's kind of a hard situation for a child to be in. I love my dad, yet I'm a little bit scared to be around him.
Yeah. I understand that.
So that's anything. And like, if there's more you want to know about that, happy to tell you, but that's kind of chemicals going from really not having touched them for the better part of 30 years to within a matter of 7 years. Now I'm overdosed on, and I'm a garbage can. I'll take whatever you got. There are certain things that there's certain things that will run me into the ground every time. But if it was something that I could take to no longer feel what I was feeling in that moment, I would do that. So kind of the bottom of that for me is I end up October 9th, 2008, overdosed in a hospital.
What did you overdose on?
Cocaine runs me into the ground every time. That will just tear me up. And
I'm sorry for laughing.
No,
it's just crazy.
It is crazy.
I've never done cocaine. I don't know what that feels like. And it sounds like, for someone who's never experienced it, it just sounds like bonkers.
It is bonkers. Yeah. So like I said, alcohol, I would drink and it produced the effect that I wanted. It's not like I love the taste of alcohol, but it got me to where I needed to go.
Sure.
The first time I did cocaine, I'm like, oh no, this is a problem. And so then it was this whole thing. It was just Morgan, it was just like a full-time job. And if I was talking, I was at some point during that progression, if I was speaking, I was lying, whether that was by omission. I'm changing a story. I'm making an excuse to go meet a dealer or, whatever it is. You're talking about bonkers. My life was now bonkers. So it was alcohol, cocaine, probably a bunch of pills. And it was just, my family was out of town. And I had been on a run. I probably hadn't slept in like 3 days. It was 5:30 in the morning on that October 9th, and I called my wife who was in Utah. When she picked up the phone, it was like, do I need to call the paramedics? No, hi, hello, what's going on? What's the problem? Do I need to call the paramedics?
That's what she said to you?
Yeah.
Immediately.
Immediately. And I said yes, and I hung up the phone.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So she knew like something was up.
She did. She did.
She would. Was it at the point where she was just like, okay, I'm out of town. He's probably on a bender.
There was
or
that.
something?
So this had been just on and off. I think I had first come clean in July, so a couple months previous to that, and was trying to do the things to get sober and relapsing here and there, and things had been going good for a few months, and then they were out of town, and that's kind of my MO. It was to try to hide things, and if then there was when my family was out of town, then that would happen. So
Yeah.
I think she, I think women, their intuition is, they know us very well. Morgan.
They're wicked smart, man.
Yes.
They're
They
wicked
are.
smart, dude. Do you feel like, okay, so when you said that you came clean in July, October, you overdosed, and you were, doing all sorts of crazy things. What was the aha moment that when you realized you had to change? Was it actually in July when you came clean, or was it more after the overdose and that kind of like scared you straight, or what was the
Morgan, during
what was
those
the impetus?
few months, like, I just felt hopeless still. I'm like, I am just never going to catch on to this. But so I go from hospital to rehab. I remember sitting there and told them, the nurses there, what my plan was. I'm like, well, I actually have an appointment to go to rehab. And my mom, sweet as she is, she's like, well, do you want to go get something to eat after we leave and then we can go to rehab? And they're like, no, this dude, he goes straight. There is no,
They knew your type, huh?
like you're going straight there. And so I get there and I'm about 9 days in there. So you're just starting to come to, and there's an individual came in to speak. They'll come and speak and kind of share their story. And he was a recovering crystal meth addict. And he had been about 3 years clean at that point. And he starts telling a story, his story. And I could just tell there is at least one dude in this world that knows what it's like to be me. He told my story, and that was like one of the first times I felt, hey, there's hope. I've heard this story. I see his life is much better than mine. And so, like, I'm a recovery guy. I don't shy away from that at all. Like, I'll talk about it at church, wherever, if that just might come out if you're having a conversation with me. And so this guy in recovery, we talk about sponsors, and this guy became my first sponsor. And he was kind of a blunt force trauma guy. Like, he cared more about my life than he did about my feelings. But it was one of the first experiences where I went to meet with someone and they weren't saying, John, you need to do this, this, and this, and your life's going to get better. Just pray a little bit more, read your scriptures more, go to this meeting. He's like, John, I don't care what you do. He's like, I'm going to tell you what I did, and my life got better. And I believed him at a soul level. I believed him because I could see his life was better, and I wanted what the guy had. That's just kind of a term we use. Like, if following that guy will get me away from the life I was living into something better, then I'm so down for that. So that was kind of, I don't know if there was this one moment that took place, but that was the first moment that I can bring to memory where I actually had some hope.
It was, that was a pretty pivotal moment to change things.
Yeah.
What was the hardest part about getting sober? Or, I mean, maybe I should say this. What is the hardest part about getting sober?
Hardest, for me, I think we talk about the actual using, and I don't care what your addiction is, if it's gambling, alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever it is. That's just, for me, I'm running away from something. This is my solution. It's actually not the problem in the beginning. This is my solution to, I'll call it a spiritual malady. I am unfit spiritually. So one of the challenges for me is like, I got to go to some of these dark spots in my life, work through some of those so I don't have that same feeling of shame, of pain, of feeling less than, I'm not a part of, that I can be just accepted and loved just for me, you know. And it'd been a long time since I had felt that, you know. So I think for me, like, I'd like to say I just went to an AA meeting once a week and it was magically better. No, there was a lot of work. There was a lot of had some good therapists along the way too to help work through some of that past. So if I'm gonna pick out like what my hardest, meaning might require the most work, I would say, yeah, you got to go to some spots that you might not want to go to. But I had some people that were there to guide me along the way to work through some of those things.
So working through like the underlying issues that brought you to that spot,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, you know, it's funny. A while ago, right? Maybe about 2 years ago, we had, so I run this company, Calm with Kava, and in May, we did a mental health sort of awareness month, right? And in it, we did a good amount of things talking about like what someone might want to do to help improve their mental space, right? And I always look, and we're going to talk about this a little bit because I'm very curious about your stance on Kava, right? Where, you know, you're sitting here, you have been on all sorts of things, and here we are drinking Kava. But we're going to talk about that. But the thing that really blew my mind was in all of these sort of efforts to put out this information, we always said, go see a therapist, go see someone to talk. And, you know, if you have issues, go talk to someone, right? So I thought, well, I should be able to do that, right? For the most part, I make my own schedule. You know, I'm able to financially, you know, afford a couple sessions. I should go find a therapist and practice what I preach, right? I'm not kidding when I tell you I probably sunk 15 hours into trying to find a therapist around me that could see me within a month. It was impossible.
It's crazy.
It was impossible. So, you know, it's crazy that someone who like, I'm not in a crisis. I'm not like, you know, I'm not going through any issues. Right. So really for me, it was almost more of like, I should just try it out. I couldn't find one. And I really wanted to. The irony is that I know that deep down inside me, there are definitely a couple things I don't really want to deal with. Like I really don't.
Right.
But I should probably deal with them. But even if I try to deal with them, it would be so hard to find a therapist. What in the world is up with that? I don't know. And I don't know if this is necessarily a question for you, but
so
do you have
this
any
is a
thoughts
couple
on
years
that?
ago, you said?
Yeah, this is 2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so my whole family's been in therapy, but we've been in therapy a long time. Yeah, there's not enough therapists.
just plain and
Not
simple.
enough therapists. This is what's happened to COVID was horrible for a lot of reasons. You know, not only the disease itself, but shutting everybody up in their homes, and the amount of anxiety and stress and worry in most people's lives went through the roof. A lot of uncertainty. So I think, you know, you had maybe the right amount of clients and therapists, and now you have this many clients that need a therapist. I think that's just my take on what I've seen, because I've seen a lot of people, they're like, yeah, it's very hard to. And I guess the tragedy would be you're not necessarily in a crisis right now, but there are a lot of people that are and need to be seen.
Exactly my point.
Yeah.
Like I'm financially able. I can make my own schedule. I have the mental capacity to find a therapist around me. I could not find a therapist. So what you're telling me is that when people are in a crisis, I guess they're going to go to a hospital and get some sort of you know, like you have to hit rock bottom to find a therapist. Is that what we're telling people? That's crazy. Maybe I'm
I
wrong.
don't know what I'm telling people, but
No, I'm not saying you're telling me. I'm just saying that the mental
what are we telling people, the world, society?
system
Yeah,
it's broken. Something's up, and I wish that would not be the case.
I agree with that.
Yeah, a real tragedy.
No, with the Kava, like that was something new for me.
Yeah,
And when you brought it to, you talked about it and the principle behind it, and say, hey, you might feel a little bit different. I'm not going to say there wasn't some hesitation on my part, but I'd talked to some other people, and which is weird. I didn't know you very well, but I trusted you, and I'm like, you invited me over and say, hey, this is how this is going to look. I think there's a lot of things that help me in my recovery, maintaining the life that I love now. Meditation's a big one, a big thing for me. And you said, hey, when I do this, that is as, I don't know the terminology. When you're preparing it.
sure.
You could
That's
see
the terminology when you're preparing it. That's exactly what
I
I
was
say.
over there and I saw you preparing it. We sat around and we're chatting. It didn't affect me to the degree that I thought it was. Like I didn't feel like out of control.
Right. And you shouldn't.
Right.
You shouldn't.
So I sat that. I had a great experience with it. You gave me some. I went and bought some, and I bought all the things, and then we had talked about this before. I'm like, yeah, maybe don't do it every day, John. Just maybe a couple times a week. Or I got into it, but it was very therapeutic and meditative for me. Just the process of preparing it, and I've like when it's something that's as natural as this is, and then I've been over to your house again. I don't know, the social aspect of it. I think for me, the opposite of addiction is connection. And when this can produce a situation or an environment where it could be just me and you, it could be a group of 6, 8 guys. I think in general, I'll just speak for men.
Sure.
I think a lot of us are pretty lonely, man. The more men I've talked to, and these are the guys with the wife, the house, the job, all that kind of stuff. And when you ask them, hey man, who you go hang out with? What do you do for fun? And they're like, I don't do a whole lot.
Yeah.
Pretty lonely. And I've been there. So that's been a big thing for me and maybe that's why I get into these questions that I'll ask people, because I really want to get to know people. There is something that just does my heart good to know another person on a genuine level. So that was, has been my experience with it. And I thought it was awesome.
So I think that one of the reasons maybe why you felt a little bit more comfortable with it is because I always make sure, I have employees that work with me that are in recovery, and they've been through that. And, so I'm always very concerned because I never want to put Kava in as the solution to your problems, right? I always look at it like it's a tool. It's something that you can use, every once in a while in order to kind of wind down the week or wind down the evening, to connect with people. But it's not something that's going to fix you. And it's also not something that's going to hurt you necessarily, right? Like you can abuse anything, right? You could abuse melatonin if you really want to go to sleep every night, right? Yeah. So I look at it in that same light. But I always have a little bit of a struggle because I don't think I should be the guy to define what sobriety looks like, right? So, and I'm not going to tell people that, oh, you can still be sober and drink Kava. I don't know if that's true. I'm not an expert. I don't know. I would bet that your definition of sobriety means something different than someone else's definition. Is that accurate, do you think?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think drinking Kava is something that works with a quote unquote sober lifestyle?
100%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 100%.
And why? Why is this different?
I consider myself 100% sober.
Okay.
Right now.
From what?
I term in a lot of meetings will say it's Cocaine Anonymous, sober from cocaine or any other mind altering substance. Even though this does relax you and you might feel that it's altering your mind, I don't feel that it's I don't feel like if I take a drink of alcohol, smoke a joint, pills, all that kind of stuff, I can't tell you with any certainty when I might stop that and what kind of damage I've caused along the way. I've never felt that with the Kava, not even once, not even close. So sobriety, but you're right. Everybody has their own definition. I've been to a lot of AA meetings where after the meeting, everybody's outside chain smoking.
Yeah.
They're sober, but nicotine is definitely altering your brain a little bit.
Yeah,
but
sure.
But different, like a guy that's chain smoking cigarettes, probably not going out and a real menace and danger to society or those around him.
Right.
So I'm sorry, I'm
So
not relating chain smoking to Kava, but that's kind of where I'm getting.
Well, I think what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is that it doesn't affect, and smoking doesn't either, doesn't really affect your decision-making skills.
There you go. That's
right?
Perfect.
You're not going to go out and rob a store because...
But I love what you said about it as a tool, because in the situations I've been in, we're just sharing Kava, what this tool has then produced a situation where I am now around other people that I care about, that I'm getting to know them better, that so when life does get hard, you're talking about what's the hardest thing about being sober is like when something hard happened, my answer was always to run away from it.
Yeah.
So one of the hardest parts can also be, no, sometimes you got to sit in some suck, like sit in some hard situations, not go do that, pick up the phone and call someone that I know, that I trust, work through that. That is a huge shift for me. I'll just speak for me, to pick up this telephone that feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds, say, yeah, I'm struggling, and, but there is a freedom that comes with that to share that burden and to carry it together. And this tool is specifically, if we're talking about that's what it's done for me. It's just allowed me to put myself in scenarios where I'm just allowed to socially connect, but not just socially, just to really connect with other individuals. And that's something that I can, top of my list of things that I value as important is the connections that I have with those around me.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder.
So what are your people in recovery that you work with, what do they say?
Same kind of thing.
Okay.
Right. I think that, a lot of people, when you're first in it, and look, I would never have, I don't consider myself an addict to anything. I'm not really in that sort of frame, right, of mind. But I think that those that do find themselves in that situation, a lot of times they have to break from everything, right? They just have to just get completely, clean slate, and then they can add things back into their life, and so that they can really get to a good spot. And I think that's the main sort of reaction when it comes to Kava, because people normally will say, well, I'm not going to do anything. And then, of course, they still smoke. They still might drink coffee. And then when you learn about Kava, it's, like you said, much more about the social aspect of things, much less about, getting high or getting stoned or something. That's not what this is. This is not that, right? So most people are fine with it once they learn what it really is. I do think that there's a lot of problems going into it because people act like it's something that it's not. I've heard so many crazy stories about people saying, "Oh, Kava isn't that?" And even from like indigenous populations in the Pacific Islands who maybe have lost some of the connection to the cultural aspect of Kava, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I was talking to a woman from Hawaii the other day, and she said, "Oh yeah, my uncles used to drink that. Don't you like see things on that?" I was like, "No, you don't see anything on that, right? It's like so much less intense than you would ever think of anything else, right? Because we're just so used to like synthetic pharmaceuticals or alcohol or whatever it is, that we all assume that that's what this is, and it's not, right?
So you're saying, I think a lot of just in the beginning, it's just very misunderstood.
Very,
Yeah.
very, like all of us.
Yeah. Right. No, I agree with that. And like I said, I didn't know a lot about it. So when I just found out more about you, about your family, what you're doing, it piqued my interest, and I've actually really enjoyed not just the Kava itself, but just everything that comes along with it. So
Yeah, yeah. Would you like another shell of Kava?
yes.
Okay, let's do this thing. Now, as a dentist, right? You've put patients under anesthesia.
I do not.
Just general, just
Local.
Just
Sorry.
local.
Yeah. It's
Local?
Yeah.
Okay. How about this then? Have you ever judged someone based purely on their flossing habits?
Well, then I would have to judge myself. I tell people, I'm like, listen, I need you. If I told you I flossed every day, I would be lying to you. So I don't. But if we can at least mix that in on a somewhat regular basis, you're going to be able to hold on to your teeth a lot longer. And not only that, you're going to have to be in my chair much less often.
So you're telling me I don't have to floss every single day. Great to know, but I probably should floss more. That's
More than once a month, Morgan.
okay. All right, good to know. Are the flossers good enough?
Oh, I hate those things.
What's wrong with? Do you hate them professionally, or do you just hate them personally?
Professionally, because I see people that, and I believe them. They're like, "Oh, I use the toothpick flossers," and I can just tell they still aren't. It's still not achieving what I needed to achieve for them. So I get flossing is a pain in the butt. It's uncomfortable, all those things. But that's just my
Why
personal,
are the flossers that much worse? They can't be that much worse.
It's better than doing nothing. I'll say that. Better than doing nothing. And it's way more clinical than you guys will ever want to know. But if you can just get the normal floss, you can just clean your teeth better. It's just the truth.
My brother is a surgeon,
Okay.
and he's very much into the research.
Yeah.
And he's always harping on the fact that like a lot of dentistry research is still like 50 years old.
Oh, I know.
So he's always kind of like, I don't know if the profession of dentistry is actually real. Like what is this? Do I even have to go to a dentist?
My friends make fun of me all the time. I just say, listen, if someone's having a heart attack, you still call 911. So I'll do my best, but
It's true. It's true. Okay. So if you were to,
but I'm glad dentistry has come as far as it has technology wise. My dentist growing up, he still had one of the ones where he was running one of his hand pieces or his drills with a pedal, and that thing had a belt going. So it's actually come a long ways.
if you were to rank these types of doctors in terms of actually helping people, how would you rank medical doctors, chiropractors, and dentists?
Oh, that's a good one because I love my chiropractor. I do. He's awesome.
You don't have to answer.
You know what? I'll say it this way. I think there's, and that's probably in any profession. I think there's some crazy dentists out there. I think there's some crazy chiropractors and some medical doctors that I probably wouldn't go to. I think if all done well, I think there's a benefit to everybody. I'm
Very
gonna put
political.
I'm gonna put medical doctors at the top, man. I just have a lot of respect for not just what they do, but how much they had to go through to get where they are. So
That's fair.
More schooling and training than I would ever want to do.
Okay. Very, very political
Yeah,
answer,
yeah, it was well done.
but I understand. So a couple last questions for you.
Went by fast.
I know, right? So we've talked a lot about addiction, what might, like we've talked a lot about addiction, what comes from addiction, what got you to addiction. And now you're living, like, as far as I can tell, it seems like you're pretty happy. You've got a beautiful family. Obviously, you're going through issues. We're all going through issues. But what's next for you? Like, what keeps you grounded and motivated today compared to before?
Yeah. Sometimes Morgan, I think we all have gifts, and sometimes, for whatever reason, we want to live small. We don't want to own the gifts that I'm going to just say God,
Sure.
I believe God gave me, or that we've developed in our lives. So I think for me, having my story, especially in my faith, there's not a lot of people with my experience, and that's great. Coming out on the other side of it, there's plenty of people that sit in my church with the struggle still, maybe are a little bit of afraid to come forward, say, hey, I'm really struggling with that. I think God, me as in recovery, with all the wounds and scars that I've had throughout my life, I am more use to others because of all my scars than I would have been if I had just done everything right the whole time. So what keeps me going, and it's something, and that's not me, hey, look at me and all the good I'm doing. Dude, that fuels me to seek out the one dude that might be really hurting, that might have had a similar experience to me, that, these people just don't get it. They don't understand me. I've had the experience where I can show up with my story and someone is comfortable talking to me. And I don't know why that is, but I do believe God has given me a gift to reach out to others, to make others feel comfortable around me. And I've been given the ability to listen to a lot of heavy stuff. It doesn't drain me. I lean into that. It's something that actually I feel good about it. It actually charges me. So I think that's what keeps me going. I think a lot of people get through recovery. They go on about their life as if and they might not ever have another problem. For me, that's just been something I feel is just kind of my purpose right now, is
Mm-hmm.
just to be of service. And but it's something, if I didn't enjoy it, believe me, I wouldn't keep doing that. It's just something that really is something that brings joy and fulfillment in my life. So that would be my answer to that.
Yeah. Sounds like it's giving you a lot of purpose.
Yeah.
And I think it's what I think a lot of people lack purpose.
Yeah.
Right? It's important. It's an important part of life.
Lack purpose, but if that's another good question if you want to fire off someone and get crickets as an answer, ask them what their purpose is. I'll ask you, what's your purpose, Morgan? I'm not expecting crickets from you, but
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that my purpose has changed a lot over the years,
Yes.
right? These days, though, I used to work for a lot of bottom feeder kind of companies. I used to really just kind of care about, I'd chase the dollar,
Yeah.
right? And nowadays, I just don't care. Like, I don't care. I think Kava really helps a lot of people. It helps bring people out of poverty in a lot of areas of the world that don't have any other economic means. I think that people here in the U.S., where we sell our products, they're able to, live a good life without, worrying about all sorts of things that they could be on, and using Kava as a way to get off of other substances, which is it's meaningful to me, and I know that it helps a lot of people. And so to me, my purpose is to make sure that other people have a better life, whatever that might be, right? Like I said, whether it's economically, whether it's, themselves physically, mentally, spiritually, it's, I just want to make sure that I leave the world better. And, I know that in my past, right, or not my past, I should say my family's past, or my ancestry, right? My ancestry, we came from, Britain, right? And I'm sure my ancestors were distilling a lot of whiskey and things
Sure.
like that. And That didn't do a lot of good. Did my grandfather a whole lot of bad,
Yeah.
you know? And so I'd like to get as many people away from that kind of stuff as possible. So that's my purpose.
Damn, that's a good answer, man. And I believe you.
Thanks,
That's
man.
awesome.
Scale of 1 to 10. How nervous are you right now?
Dude, I'm really not that nervous. Like 10 minutes into this thing, it was just like I was sitting down with a buddy having a conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it. Well, thank you so much for being here, John. I appreciate it. And any last words for the people?
I don't know whoever is going to listen to this or watch this. I don't know. I always try to reach out to the one that might be watching this with a heavy heart, and just I would just always say that you are, even though it might not seem like it, I would say that you're seen and that you're loved, and that you're enough just the way you are.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much, and appreciate it.
Thanks, Morgan.
All right.